Okay, hello guys. For those of you that have just joined us, this is Andy Sanders, and I'm going to be doing the very next in my How to Draw series. We are going to be doing how to draw unicorns, knights, castles, and princesses today. So there's quite a few things that we're looking to cover. We're hoping to keep this around about 45 minutes. So if you're just joining us now, we're going to be doing some awesome illustrations very shortly. And whilst we're waiting, just for the next 10-15 seconds, whilst I bang on about what we're going to do, I'm going to be doing a little bit of colouring in too. As you can see here, we've got a couple of different knights. My intention is to show you a lovely castle where they are going to live. I also want to be able to show you how to draw a unicorn with a princess who is carrying a great big sword on it. She's going to be a very brave young lady. She's going to be getting stuck into the action. None of these silly princesses sitting around waiting to be rescued. Oh, no, thank you. And then at the end, all being well, I'll be showing you how to do these two fantastic knights as well. So with that in mind, guys, we're going to get started momentarily. Hello, guys. I can see we've got lots of people joining us. Hello. Special shout out to B over at Taddington Primary School, who asked me to say hello to her today. So I'll be doing that too. But let's see what we're going to be doing, what it's going to look like. So here we go. This is an example of the kind of castle that you could end up creating once you've done today's little tutorial. I'm not going to show you how to do all of it because it gets a little bit repetitive doing the same things again and again and again. So what I'm going to do today is show you how to build a tower that looks nice with a couple of guys in it, maybe a little Rapunzel or something, and a knight trying to climb up there. Hi there, Darcy. Hello. And we're going to see about making something that looks really good, and then I want you guys to go away and produce your own fantastic stuff. I would love for you to then show me what you've done. Please, can you put things on Twitter with the hashtag #DrawWithAndy, or can you put your castles and your knights and things on Facebook on my page, and do shout about it to your friends. We'd love to get a little bit of publicity going on, get some more guys joining in next week. The other stuff that we're going to be doing then, like I say, we're going to have some knights that look a little bit like this. In the middle of battle, we want them to look a little bit exciting. You can always change them. You can give them different helmets and things too. We'll talk about how you can do that. We'll also turn our pages the right way up. We're going to have something a little bit like this. Woo! Looking fantastic with the knight climbing up a tower. Got a little illustration there. That's just a middle bit of a castle. And of course, as I mentioned to you guys, I know all of you are waiting for this one. We're going to have a fantastic princess riding on a unicorn, leaping through the sky with a fantastic looking sword as well. So we're going to be showing you how to draw all those things. Now, first things first, we're going to have a look at drawing this castle. Okay? The reason for that is that you need to have somewhere for all of your fantastic characters to live. And actually, I find doing a castle is very therapeutic and very fun. And actually, it's very easy too. So what I'm going to do, we're going to very quickly start off with our pen or pencil, whatever you've got, doesn't matter. And we're going to start drawing an outline of the castle. Now, there's a secret to making it look good that I'm going to tell you as we go. Normally, when you do illustrations, you have to try and make sure that you are just drawing very straight lines. But it's not the case for this, okay? Not the case at all. In fact, we want to have slightly wibbly-wobbly lines, and you'll see why. It's going to be really gentle and really delicate. Just for the record too, guys, I'm going to start drawing down here, and I'm going to have to put my paper down as I get towards the top, because it's going to be a nice tall tower. So you guys too, everyone that's sat there, what I would like you to do, round about in the middle of your page, we're going to start off by drawing a line, and it's not going to be straight. It's going to be a bit wibbly-wobbly. And there's a good reason for that. This little line here is going to be the starting point of our castle. It's going to be this bit, okay? We're going to take that all the way across, again, keeping it a little bit wibbly-wobbly. There we go. And then when we get to this point here, we're going to come back up. So all we've got so far is two short standing uppy lines, and then one big long line joining them across the bottom. I'm going to go into detail in a little while about how you can do all the finer points and make it look absolutely fantastic and make it look like a real castle. But I'll tell you why now we are doing this wibbly wobbly stuff. And you don't want to make it too big. If we go bananas, it'll look rubbish. But the secret to a good looking castle is making it look like it's properly built out of stone. So halfway up your lines there, we're going to have another line, and then we're going to turn it into a rectangle It almost looks like a cake, actually. With a little bit of jam filling in the middle. And here's the nice thing about doing your castles. You can actually be wibbly wobbly, and if it goes a little bit too far, like I think that's maybe a bit too wibbly wobbly, you can go over it again with your pen in a straighter line, and it'll even it out. And what we're going to end up with here, chaps, is some stones that look like they've been around for years. They're not brand new and all square like our robots that we did last week. By the way, if you've not checked out our robot stuff from last week, go check it out because it was a great session. We had awesome fun. Instead, we're deliberately doing some stones here. Again, a little bit wibbly, a little bit wobbly. And all of these stones are going to come together and form the basis of our castle. Now, there's a couple of other tricks you can do. Some of them you can make a little bit straighter than others. But to make it look like a proper castle with stones in, what you can do is do little, you cut off the corners basically, little diagonal lines right in the corners, and it makes it look like the stones have been bashed a bit when they've been put together. Makes them look a little bit more realistic. And there you go. That is how you get realistic looking stone effects going on your castle. Okay? That's not the only thing that we're going to do. We're going to do a few other things to make it look like a believable castle. We don't just build straight up. We don't just keep going with one tower, because that's not how castles are built. What they actually did was give them a really nice wide base so they were strong and sturdy, and then they would start to build it a bit narrower as they went up. So this one isn't going to be quite as tall as the rest. In fact, this one's going to be a teeny bit slimmer. It's the next layer of bricks is going to be a wee bit thinner, so I'm going to do it to about there. And I'm not drawing all the way across. Instead, I'm going to leave a little bit of space on this side and a little bit of space on this side. And for the guys that were with me last week, can we remember what we call this shape that I'm currently adding on top of my my little base? It's not a rectangle. It begins with a T. It is a trombone. No, it's not a trombone. No, it's actually a trapezium. And trapeziums are very, very useful for making it look like things are getting narrower as you build up with them. We did it with our robots last week. Same shape is coming into play here. And on this one, we want it to make it look like things are actually starting to get sloping and narrow up. So we're not going to draw the brick lines on like we did before. Instead, we can have one smack bang in the middle, like that. That one's fine. That can go straight up. But the ones at the side, instead, we're not going to do it quite as slopey as him. We're not going to do them as straight up as that. Instead, we're going to do halfway in between. Round about there. And same over here. Not perfectly as straight as this one and not as slopey as that one. Something around about that. Okay? And it will just make your castle look that bit more believable and a bit more 3D. Now, we're not going to, again, just completely shoot all the way straight up here with our tower. We will have a couple of lines that are going to be going upwards. That's true. But every now and again, wherever you want, you're going to leave a teensy-weensy little gap. Like that. Okay? And you might have a couple of gaps going all the way up your tower until you get towards the top. I'm going to do the same here. Don't want them to be perfectly in line. But why are you doing those gaps, Andy? What's the reason for this? It's crazy. No, there's a reason for this, my friends. And that is a very, very good reason. We want it to make it a believable castle, something that does look like it's got, you know, princesses and knights in. It's not going to be brand new and shiny. So instead, we're going to put a little bit of moss growing on the side of the castle. So where you've left these little gaps, and don't worry if you've only left one, or, you know, if you feel you've not got enough space, we're going to add little bumps like this, and they're going to come in. And they can be that sort of a shape. It's almost like a little quotation mark on its side or something. But these bumps and these little shapes are very, very useful. And you don't have to have them all the perfect same size. Instead, you can actually make them, you know, longer and thinner if you want. Or you can make them squibble up a bit and squibble down a bit. Squibbling is, of course, a very professional word that all illustrators use, absolutely. And that's going to be where our moss is on the side of our building. Now, What I like to do here to make sure that our castle does look sensible and proper, and that we haven't completely fudged it and messed things up, is to make sure that we add bricks that are the same thickness as our bottom here. So I'm not going to do a really narrow set of bricks, that would look weird. So I need to try and make sure that my next line of bricks here, a little bit wibbly, a little bit wobbly. You can go up at the end if you want to, that's fine. It doesn't really matter if he goes up or down. And again, you can add a straight line like that just to sort of level him out a bit. We're going to add another layer here. And I can see there we've got somebody else called Libby who's just joined us. Hi Libby, aged 9. Lovely to have you guys joining us. We're going to have the next layer up here. And I'm going to get in one more here, I think, before we get to this bit. Now, I've got some really nicely spaced out bricks here, and there's a trick to putting bricks in. You're going to see it more as we go up and up and up, and that is, and builders do this in real life too, you never want to put bricks so that the little vertical lines here are on top of each other. Instead, you should always have it so that your line goes roughly in the middle of a brick. People realised years and years ago that if you put bricks together in this way, they stand together really nicely. Can make it a bit thinner at the edge, that's fine. And we're going to go all the way up with our bricks. If you want to, you can add a little bit more moss and things as you're going. And it's a super easy thing to do. It's quite therapeutic, like I say. And hopefully you guys have got something that's looking like a pretty good tower for a princess to be sat in right now. There's a couple of other little tips that you can do here too. One of the things I like to do is to every now and again make it look like there's a little creature, like a mouse or something, hiding in the cracks between the bricks. The way you do that is by, say on this brick here, one of the ones you've got halfway up, you actually make him go up like that and then across, okay? So he's got a little curved bottom to him. Now, you might think that looks a bit weird, but here's the reason for it. You can put 2 little circles in there. That's your little creature's eyes. And it looks like he's found a tiny little space to call his own, living halfway up the tower. You can add, again, like we were doing before, the little diagonal lines at the corner of all these bricks, and it'll make them look that little bit more like actual bricks on there. And you might have, from when you were doing your moss, a bit like me, you might have some bits of moss where it looks like they sort of stop randomly halfway down a brick. And that looks a little bit odd. But here's the nifty trick that you do to sort that out. Not all bricks on castles are the same size and shape. Sometimes when they were building castles, they ran out of bricks that were the right size. So instead of having, say, a big fat brick like that one, you end up with 2 little ones. And so where you've got like your moss that's maybe got a little point on it or something like that, you can actually say, right, do you know what? Here, this is going to be a place where we're splitting this brick up and we're going to be turning him into more than one brick. Now, we still want to try and stick to our rule of not having bricks with lines right on top of each other, but you can do that. Okay, you can have a very tall slim brick there, and you can even split him in half too if you want. There you go. You can do it just about anywhere you want. You don't have to do a brick that is, you know, like that. You can split this split in half as well. And there we go. We're getting some really nice bricks here that make it look like it's a proper old-fashioned castle. If you ever go to York, and I don't live a million miles away from it, you can see some fantastic examples of this at Clifford's Tower and other places too nearby. It is a fantastic, fantastic city with lots of old-fashioned buildings, and you will see all these kind of little effects with the bricks where they've sort of plugged it in with whatever fits. Right, the final bit, this is where all the action's going to be taking place. We're going to have a little princess at the top, a Rapunzel kind of character who's going to have long flowing hair, and we're going to have a brave knight who is coming to try and get to her. We've also got a duck, because, you know, ducks are cool. Everybody knows that. And at this point, there's one thing that I'm going to show you that isn't on this drawing. Instead, it's something that you can see on my castle that I actually coloured in earlier. Okay, you can see there as well, there's the tower that we're building. That's the first bit of it. If you wanted to make your own afterwards, you've got all the skills now, well, almost all the skills now to go away and do it. And that is, if you wanted to do a door, I don't want you guys to feel shortchanged. I don't want you to go away and think, well, he taught me how to do bricks, but I've no idea how to do these nifty wooden bits too. And there's a couple of things to know. First off, and this is so geeky, but when you are building anything and you have a window or you have a door, you have to have one big chunky brick all the way across the top, and it needs to be wider than your door. And that chunky brick is called a lintel. Builders will know all about that. If you've got any dads or mums or anyone who's a builder, they will know all about it. And every window that you have in your house will actually have a lintel above it. Chances are it might be covered up by plaster or whatever, but still, it is there. And so if you draw a door or a window in your castle, put one of those in. Additionally, we've got a wooden timber frame here too. That looks pretty cool. I'll show you how to do that, and to do it, we're not going to draw an entire window or door here. Instead, I'm going to add an extra little wooden bit onto my tower. And so rather than having it going back out again like it did here, instead I'm going to cheat a little bit today, and you're going to do it with me. We're going to put a wooden truss in here instead, okay? And I'll show you how to do it. So whatever point you're up to now at the top of your tower, let us, instead of doing the little angled bricks, let us add one big wide line across. Now, importantly, I'm not going to draw this side of it because we're going to have a princess there in a minute, okay? And her hair is going to be in the way of some of it. So before you get round to drawing every single bit of this beam, this wooden beam, he's going to be a bit wider than the tower so far. He's going to stop here, and that's because the hair is going to be flowing over the top, okay? We can then go up from here, and this is where we're going to have a wee bit more brick on top. So we're going to have some more brick going up here, and I'm going to put all the detail on my tower in a second. Sorry, on my wood in a second here. So at the top of a castle you have the battlements, and these are done by going up and then down and then up and then down. Again, guys that remember the session last week with robots, you guys will be absolute pros at this. And before we get all the way across, again, I'm going to leave this bit blank because that's where our princess is going to go. We want her to be leaning over some of these towers and battlements. I think the best thing for you guys to do at this point is to join in doing the princess with me. We'll come back and do the little details on this this wooden beam here that we've got, but it should be nice and easy for you. What we're going to do is see about having her leaning on the tower, okay? And the way to do that is to actually go to one of your battlements, sort of the one that you've got furthest across this way, and we're going to be putting her arm on there like she's resting her hand on it, okay? And here we go, here's how we do it. Essentially, it is a circle added to, it looks like it's hiding behind your wall pretty much, behind the battlement. We'll maybe give her a nice little bracelet or something too. So where you've got the little circle that you've added, that's going to be where her hand goes. We're going to add a little bit on. It almost looks like there's an extra circle just peeping behind. In fact, that's going to be her bracelet. If you guys have the space to do so, you can add little bits of detail there. I sometimes like to put, for like jewellery and things, just little lines across it like that. And it makes it look like it's a bit of metal. She's going to need to have an elbow poking off as well. And the way to do it, to make it look like her hand is resting on there, is to go straight across, curve up, and then join back up. And it looks like her arm, there we are, her hand, her wrist, and then the curve on her elbow is there, okay? Right, she needs to have her hair flowing down as well, because without that we're not going to be able to have this Prince Charming getting up there to help save the day and to come get her. So to do that, we're going to need to put her face in, and we'll put her hair on top, okay? For her, halfway down her hand, we're going to put a little curve in, and this is going to be her cheek going round to her chin. Her head's going to be a little bit tilted down, okay? And we're going to pop some eyes in here in a second so that you can see where she's looking. Okay, there we go. she's going to have lovely long flowing locks going all the way down the tower, and there's a nifty way to do it to make it look like it's plaited, and I'll show you that now. Okay. We're going to have the other side of her hair too. So you guys, you might well know about having like a hair parting. If your mum's a hairdresser or your dad's a hairdresser, they'll be able to tell you all about that. Lots of us have got hair chopped off nice and short because of COVID-19 and the lockdown. But here's how we do it for drawing a princess with long flowing locks. Okay. What I like to do is start up here, so not above her eyes, but just to one side. You can see I'm doing it pretty much above where her hand is. And this is going to be where we start to draw a little shape. It's almost like a ball. It's going to go all the way around, but it comes back down like that, okay? And that's going to be one side of her hair. We also wanted to have hair on the other side of her head that's going to now sweep down. So where that is, we're going to make sure that it meets, otherwise she'll have a little bald spot. Not that there's anything wrong with bald spots, because I've got one of them. And it's going to sweep down like this, and then curve round her head. Okay? So it starts coming down, flattens out, and then curves back round again. Okay? We need to now go over the top with her hair as well. So we need to make sure that she's got her hair going over the top. So at the back here of her head, where you've got the little bump here for the back of her head, we're now going to come over the top. Again, little curve going up, all the way round, and down. And I think today, to make it look like she's sort of in control of things a little bit more, I'm going to put a hand over here, which is going to be holding her hair like a rope and dropping it straight down. I've just realised, I'm so sorry guys, I've just seen I went off the top of the page there. Apologies for that. Okay, so we're going to have a hand out here, which is going to be her hand. And I like to draw things really nice and simple. I simply keep a straightforward round circle there, like that, for her entire hand, okay? And we can now form a straight line that's going to go from her hair all the way over to this hand, okay? And all the lovely hair that she's got, it's going to go through that point. It's going to be like almost like a lever sort of going through that one point of her arm, okay? I'll need to join her arm up with her body. Dead easy to do. Right at the bottom of her head, we're going a straight line over there like that. And then another arm, sorry, another line for the arm coming back like this. Now, we want it to look like it's hair, so we're going to add a few extra lines. You can see on this one here that I've done, I've got some big fat chunky plaits. That's what we're going to have here too. But the first thing is going to be her fringe. That's going to go there. And then from the side of her head, it's all going to go to this one point. There and there. And it now looks like she's poking her hair all out into this one hand. And that's where we're going to have these beautiful plaits coming down in a second. You can also add, just to make it look a little bit more realistic and more like hair, you can add a big thick stroke line that then joins up with the top of the hair there. You can do the same over here. You'll notice when you do this, it tends to curve in a bit in line with the parting that you've got. So there we go. And then we're going to do the same over here. This one, for the part we've already got, will be actually joining up though. So it is going to join up there with the centre of the head. And hopefully you've got something like that for her hair. Right. We've now got a nice safe bit of space here where we can finish off our tower. And we know that things aren't going to get in the way. And to return to what we were talking about here, having this lovely big bit of wood, it's going to be a bit bigger than the side of our tower. Okay, our princess is sat up there. And I'm going to tell you to get your pen and to draw 3 circles. I'm going to switch to using a little fine liner because it's sometimes easier to do the details with a fine liner pen. But if you only got one normal pen, it doesn't matter. That's fine. What you need to do is put in 3 dots wherever you want. Don't do them too close together, but wherever you want, up and down on your plank of wood. Okay? And remember, this plank of wood is very useful because it's going to be the kind of thing that you can do in future if you're building a boat or you're drawing a catapult or anything like that. This is how you make it look like wood. So this bit has got 3 nice dots, decent sized ones. And here's what we do. You take these dots and you draw horizontal lines, a little bit wiggly, a little bit up and downy maybe. And you don't have to make sure they're joined up. Mine were just by chance joined up there in line. But then when you've got the next line that comes along, which is going near it, it wants to curve around it. And this is because we're drawing something on the wood called the grain. Again, it makes it look that little bit more realistic. You can keep going again and again every time around the little bumps that you've got. And if anybody's dad or mum is a carpenter, you've got a big brother who knows how to use a lathe or whatever, you will recognise that these are what we call knots. So the little dots are the knots in the wood. Occasionally as well, make them get a little bit thinner or thicker or bumpier. And again, it just adds that bit of realism. Okay, and there we go. And if you want, give yourself an extra cheeky dot wherever you fancy it. I want one there. Nice. I have one over here too. That now joins up like that. Okay. And this is, as you can see, how you get a realistic piece of wood for your medieval castle. You can do all sorts with this. You can make drawbridges, etc. It doesn't matter if, like, for me, you can see that I've had to stop my line halfway across. Doesn't matter at all. Absolutely fine. Okay. Very quickly, we're going to finish off our little battlements at the top here. I'll give that some little bits like we talked about before. And remember, you want to try wherever possible to make sure that your tower has got bricks. That don't have vertical lines joining up with them. Okay, so there's our princess in our tower. Okay, she's going to be dangling her hair down and somebody's going to come to the rescue. In this case, don't know, need a name for this fella. Not thought what he's going to be called, but he's on his way to try and rescue her. I think we'll call him Dylan, because I can just see Dylan and Riley there have joined in as well. Dylan's a good name for a little knight, I think. Just make that a tiny bit rounder. Woo. Lovely. And now we're going to do all this hair that's going to be falling down. I want to put him in the right spot, so I'm going to turn my page horizontally. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to start off with his head. Now, let's remember, her hair is going to be dropping straight down. So imagine in your head, and if you have a pencil, you might want to put like a little dotted line or something to just sort of very gently remind you, really faintly, just to remind you where her hair is going to go in a line. I don't know if you guys can see that, actually. I might do it a little bit harder. Okay, and this is where using like a pencil and a pen can be really useful. If you're always drawing pen, this kind of thing might help make you think, maybe it's worthwhile doing it in pencil too. But that is going to be where she is dropping her hair and he's holding on to it. So here we go. His head is going to be just above that line. And it's going to be, it's not a square and it's not a circle. It's kind of like a rectangle with a rounded edge. Okay? So like a rectangle, but the edges are curved on it. And this is going to be his head. Not in the middle, but to one side, we're going to draw his eyes. And that's because he is looking up at her. 2 little elongated dots. You guys from last week might well remember that I had some tips for you. If you get stuck and you can't work out how to draw elongated dots, imagine you've got a penny. And if you tilt it very narrowly, like that, you can see the shape there that it makes. It makes a shape like that when you've got a penny doing that. And that is the kind of shape that you want for the eyes. That works really nicely for doing eyes. We're also going to give him some hair. So for this, what I'm going to do very simply, I'll give him like he's got a buzz cut, like lots of dads currently have who are on lockdown from COVID-19. I'll make his chin a little bit wider too. There we go. And to do that, we do a big bounce all the way over the top of his head, like this. Whee! And that shows you where his forehead goes. Okay, it's going to go around about 2/3 of the way across. Hi Toby, thank you for saying hello. Cheers. And it's going to stop pretty much in line with the top of the eyes. We can then go down because he's going to have a little bit of hair in front of his ears. These are called your sideburns. And then if you put a little line at the bottom of your sideburn, you can do a curve all the way around there, and that's your ear. Okay. At that point, your hair just disappears back there. And we can give this guy, say, black hair today just to make it easy. But you could colour him in anything you want, whatever hair colour you fancy. And one of the little tricks for making it look like people have got hair, like at the minute, that's a very, very short haircut, as you can see. One of the tricks for making it look like somebody's got a very, very tight haircut to their head is to add a little flick on the back of their, where their crown is. And so what you do is you do a little boop, like that. Just two little strokes, two little flicks like that, and it now looks like you've got hair on his head rather than just a coloured in black bit. The other thing about doing hair in black, which I quite like to do, if you made his head a bit too flat, you can then make it thicker. Okay. So here we go. That's our hero. He's on the way up to rescue his princess, but he needs to be holding on to his to the girl's hair. And so what we'll do, we'll put his hands out like he's holding on to it. And this is where the dotted line comes in real useful, because it makes sure that we end up putting things in the perfect line as we need it to be. So in front of him, not under his chin, but out to the side here, I'm going to draw two circles. The first one is going to be his furthest away arm. So in this case, it's actually his right arm. And then the one afterwards is going to be the near arm. So in this case, his left arm. Okay. And two circles like that, with one sat slightly on top of the other. There you go. You can see. You can see now it looks like he's actually holding on with his hand, and he's pulling on it like that. Okay. We're going to join them up with his body. Just a nice straight line. That's going to be his arm going straight underneath his chin. And then we're going to have another line here, which is going to be the underside of his arm. Okay. He's going to be pulling himself up. So we need to do the back of his body here. And if you're a little bit tight towards the castle, don't worry. You might think, oh, I've not got space for his legs. Here's the nifty trick, and here's how I like to draw my characters so they look like they're walking or running. What we're going to do is a big curve, which is going to go all the way around. It's going to be his back, and it's going to join up to make his tummy. It comes out from where his neck would go. And then it's going to come back up here and around and tuck under his arm. And to give him feet and make it look like he's actually walking up the wall, we put a curvy bump at the back of his body. And then we put another one at the front, like that. And it looks like he's marching his way up. Again, you can then put colour into these. So a little bit of black. Whatever colour you want to colour them in is absolutely fine. If you want to give him brown shoes or whatever, because he's a knight in ye olden days, that is absolutely fine. And we do want him to look like he's got some kind of medievalness to him. So we're going to give him a little cape as well. And this is going to be dangling down. So where his neck meets his, where his head meets his body, that's going to be his neck. And there's a trick to doing it. You don't want a cape to be perfectly square and flat. That doesn't look like he's moving. Instead, it wants to be billowing in the wind. So let's add a cape to him right where his neck is. And it's going to be a little bit of curve up and down. A bit longer there. And then it's going to be the same thing over here. A little bit wider. And a tiny bit longer too. And when you join it up, don't join it with a straight line. Join it with a curve. And you can also add a little flick out. Like when material billows and goes up and down like this, you often get an extra bit of it that you can see, say, over there. So there you go. That's his cape that is now hanging off the battlements. Okay. Right. Oh, look at that. Well, look, we're almost there. We just need to join the hair up now. And here's how you do the lovely little plaits to make it look really good. Okay. It's dead easy. It wants to start off quite thick here and then get a bit thinner as we're going down. So what we're going to do, guys, is do a little curve from her hand here. It's going to start right at the bottom point of her hand because she's clenching a fist like that. So the hair's going to go in the top there in the middle. It's going to come out there in the middle too. So right in the middle of her hand, we're going to have this coming out and it's going to be a line. Just watch this. Comes out, curves around, goes back in. It's almost like, What would we say that's like? I'm trying to think how we describe it. I don't know. Kind of like, almost like an S, but backwards, I guess, is the best way to describe that. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to use this. We're going to do the same little shape again and again, getting smaller and smaller each time until we get to this hand here of our brave hero coming to rescue her. So again, we're going to do curve like that, and like that, and like that, and I'm getting smaller and smaller now. Each one of these little curves, there we go, joining up. Okay. I need one obviously at the top as well. When you do it, it now looks like her hair is there and that she has lowered it for him so that he can climb up the castle. Okay. Thank you, guys. I can see that Sky, Tyler and Kylan are really enjoying it and that Charlie and Finn are having fun too. Right. Now, guys, you can go away and you can colour this in. That's how we do it. Don't forget as well, you can use a rubber, for instance, like I've got one on the back of my pencil here. I can use that to rub out any of the little dotted lines or guides that I've put in as well. We've covered just about everything there in terms of castles, and I want to move on because we've got lots of other things that are exciting to draw too. But here's a tip too: when you draw your castles, don't just make them all grey. That's boring, okay? If you've got a lovely set of crayons or even felt tip pens, do some of the bricks in grey, do some of them in gold, do some of them in something that's not quite grey and not quite gold and something in between. It just makes your castle look that little bit more realistic, because that's what happened in the olden days when they were building castles. Oh, the one thing we're missing is a duck. Very quickly before we move on, let's do a duck. Ducks are great fun. So this is going to be the little companion that our princess has had. So just before we throw away our drawing and jump onto the next one, what we're going to do, I love giving ducks sunglasses. So not right at the bottom of your battlements, but just here, we're going to draw very quickly a pair of sunglasses. The way to draw them is to draw a long line, make it a bit thicker at one end. And then here we go. What we're going to do, halfway along your line now, we're going to go and do a little, almost like a semicircle, but it's not going to join quite back up here with our top line. And we're not going to join it up. We're not going to draw the other side of the sunglasses either, because we're going to have a beak in the way this week. You guys might remember that we had a pair of sunglasses on somebody last week, one of the dinosaurs. Well, this is how we do it on a duck. Underneath our bill, we're then going to go and do a little curve, comes out, joins up with the bottom of our battlements, and at the other side, flicks out again, and that's going to be where his tail goes. We need to give this guy his sunglasses in full, so you can just draw those lines in there. And to make them look really realistic, put in the reflection with a couple of little diagonal lines like that made out of white. A semicircle is always good for the top of a duck's head, so halfway along the arm of the sunglasses, we put the top of his head like that and joins around. And then we're not going to join up over here, that wouldn't work. What we need to do here is to just continue around and find a way of joining these two bits up. The way to do it is to give our duck a little bit of a neck, and then it flicks back out again, and you can put his wing in by just doing a little sort of semicircle shape there like that. And that is how we've got our duck and our princess sat on the tower. Okay, right, next page. Oh, no, wait, I forgot. Don't forget to sign it. We always sign our drawings because they're awesome. And when you're super famous, you can sell them for millions. You can, by the way, guys will remember this from last week, make it look like the castle has got a little bit of presence by actually doing some horizontal lines. That's always a little tip too. And it just makes it look like it's actually sat there in the real world with a shadow. Okay. Right. Next up, we are going to be looking at our princesses, guys. Princesses. We're going to have a princess on a unicorn. This one is on 2 different bits of paper because I wouldn't have been able to squeeze her in. But I really like this one. I like this one. This princess is not just sitting around waiting to be rescued. She's not just letting her hair down. Instead, she's a battling princess. She's a warrior. And this is her brave and trusty steed. I call this Flump the Unicorn, but you guys might have a better name. What we're going to do here is we're going to get our paper, and I would recommend that if you're getting a new sheet of paper, turn it landscape, okay? Turning it landscape will give you that little bit more room for doing them both on the same page, okay? We're going to draw the unicorn first. We're going to make sure that when we draw the unicorn that we've got them down in this section here of the page, because then we've got space for our princess on top, okay? So how do we draw how do we draw a unicorn and make them look super duper? Well, it's not too tricky actually. I'm going to start off with the unicorn's face. I always feel that it's best off with characters where possible. Start with the face. And the way to do it, you can see here, it's almost like a sort of a light bulb shape that we have here for the chin. Okay, it's almost like an old-fashioned light bulb, but not quite joined up. So let's have a look at this. We're going to start off here, halfway. This is halfway down my page, by the way. Start off halfway down my page, and it's going to go down, bulk out a bit, come around, and to make it nice and easy this time, I'm not actually going to have the leg in the way. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to instead have it so it's a nice... Somebody actually pointed out that this looks a little bit like a moomin. I'm going to have this little sort of shape here. It's kind of like a hook, I guess is the best way to describe it. And one of the first things to do there, once you've done this shape, is where you've got the start of it over here, we're going to put 2 dots for the eyes. And remember, these are little sort of semicircle shapes. There we go. And we want to give this guy some nostrils as well so that he can breathe. Okay. The first nostril you want to put underneath the left eye, smack bang underneath it, and that's going to go right in the middle of where the curve is. And then your next one is going to go further to one side, and it makes it look like he's what's called 3/4 on. That means that basically he's not looking straight at us and he's not looking completely to the side, he's looking diagonally. The Simpsons is a great example of how the characters always look 3/4 onto the camera. Okay, so we've got a face going for our unicorn. That's a good start, but we're going to need to give him some ears as well, and we're going to need to give him his famous horn too. So where your little unicorn mouth stops there, up above it, high up above the eyes, a little bit higher, where I'd say it's probably about the same distance actually, from the eyes to the nose, go the same height again, and that's going to be where his ears go. Okay, he's going to have a point going up and a point coming down. That's ear number 1. We're going to give the little soft pinky bits of the ear inside too. There we go. We're going to do the same over here for his other ear, but we need to make sure that we've got his mane in as well. And his mane is going to look beautiful. We do little curves like this. Okay, that's like a little C but backwards. And pretty much at near the top of his ear, we're now going to join it up with a curve that comes all the way around, okay? And this is how we make it look like he's got a mane, by doing little curves like this that's pushing through between his ears. And if, like me there, you need a little bit of space, joining up, that's fine. We're going to give him his other ear now as well. That's going to be poking out on a little bit more of an angle. There we go. Straight up and straight down, kind of like a triangle. And to make it look realistic again, we're going to leave a thick bit of space at the top of his ear there, and then it's going to be thinner on this side. And again, that's just a little trick to make it look more 3D. Okay. We need a big horn that's going to be coming out the top of his head. As you can see on my previous unicorn, I've given him one, but I don't think that's big enough. I think it needs to be taller. I think it needs to be more impressive. So right in between his ears here, we're going to go up with that horn and then down. It's like an ice cream cone, if you imagine, just stuck upside down. That currently is a unicorn head ice cream. That's what we've got right there. And to make it look like a little spirally, twirly horn, I'm going to get, I don't know why I find this easiest to do upside down actually, but I do. I'm going to get my little fine liner. If you have one, that's great. If you don't, it doesn't matter. You can still do it with whatever pen or pencil you're using. I'm going to do this. And this just makes it look, by doing slightly gentle curvy lines all the way up to the top, like our unicorn has grown that horn naturally. Okay. Right. The next bit that we need to have here, guys, is the legs on our unicorn. So we're going to have it like our unicorn is in action, not just stood still and boring, but actually springing through the air and leaping. And today we're going to do that by putting in a little curve underneath his chin, and it's going to be like his hooves are tucked right up. So here we go. You do straight underneath his nostril, you do an extra little curve like this, going all the way down, and it looks like it's going to join back up, and you're actually aiming, we don't get there, but we aim for where his mouth stops. Okay? We need his other little paw as well. Sorry, paw? Paw? No, they don't have paws. What do they have? Hooves. Hooves. Let's go with hooves for unicorns. We need to put the other little hoof in. So again, this is just going to be like a little curve all the way around. There we go. And right where his mouth is, this is where we're going to have his hoof now coming backward, his leg coming backwards and joining back up with his body. So here we go. You'd imagine, I'm going to use my pencil to just explain this. You'd imagine here, look, dot, 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 dot. That is where the rest of his leg would go, but we've just put our head in the way there. Okay, so I've just done that little dotted line bit to help you. Here we go. So let's put that in. And there we can see we've got the start of the unicorn's leg. We're going to give a nice big chunky body here. And this chunky body wants to get fat towards his bottom because unicorns, like horses, have very powerful legs. Then it's going to get thinner as we get back up towards his neck. So here we go. We're going to do a big stroke all the way down. It's fat at the bottom. And there's a little trick just for doing unicorns and making it look like they're in action. You don't join it quite back up in full. Instead, what you do, you leave a little gap there. We give a nice big round bum. And then it gets thinner again. And at this point here, so you can see it's got a nice fat bottom. At this point, we're going to put in the unicorn's mane. So we don't join it up. Instead, what we do here, and you can make the mane long or short, doesn't really matter. If you keep this line going, you'll have a really short mane. If you stop it halfway up his bum, you're going to get a really long mane. But here's how we do it. We want the mane to go from where the ear is all the way up, curve it, and do a little flick. And then we're going to have a little bit more down here with a flick. We're going to have another little bit with a flick. And we're going to have another little bit with a flick. The way that you draw hair and the way you draw fire, by the way, are very, very similar. Often very little flicks and curves like this. So if you can draw hair well for a unicorn, you can probably also draw fire pretty well as well. Okay. Two great legs at the front, I'm sure you'll agree. I'm going to rub out my little dotty lines there that were just my helpful guide and explaining what we were doing. There we go. But we now need to give him some legs at the back too. He wouldn't really work with wheels like we did last week on the robot, would he? I can see Martin is saying that Christopher, who I'm guessing is his son, is enjoying it and wants to do the robot one. If you do want to watch this back afterwards, guys, you can do. And you can do the same with the robot ones. They're all on my Facebook page. So what we do now for his legs, we need to, where we've left this little gap, that's going to be where the leg goes. And we're going to do, just below this little gap, we're going to do a leg that comes all the way down and then curves back up and goes around. Now, we're going to stop that leg around about here. So it's kind of like, again, a little hook shape, not too dissimilar to what we started off with for the face. And we do nice, powerful legs by making the leg get fatter at the near where it joins up with his bum and then getting thinner towards the knee. So I'm going to do this little shape here. Joins in like that. And there we go. We look like we've got another leg there. Just as we did with the other one, the back leg is just a little bump like that. You could also, I guess, if you wanted to, put the back hoof there too. And we need a tail. So the last bit of our unicorn is going to be a tail. There's a nifty trick to doing tails. What you always do, start off thin at the back of the bum, get really wide at the middle point of the tail, and then get thin to a flick again. And if you imagine a little S on its side, what we do is we start off and go curve up, curve down, curve up again. And then this bit here, we're going to do the exact same thing. So, same shape. And it joins up right there on the top of the bum. And there we go, we've got a unicorn. If I'm being really critical, I could maybe have made that a little bit fatter and thicker there. That might have been nice, but it doesn't massively matter. As long as you've got a unicorn there with a beautiful horn on the front, you've got the two little legs tucked up at the front, two legs curved at the back, you're going to be doing very well for yourself. Now we need somebody who's going to be riding along, our brave warrior princess who's leaping over along with our unicorn. And she's actually quite easy to draw. She's easier than the unicorn, I think. So we're going to see about drawing her. She's going to have a big sword in her hand as well, because she's going around and she's not taking any prisoners. And you will remember the little fella that we had before. He had a nice round head, very, very similar for our princess. Okay, so this time she's going to have hair in the way. So we're not going to draw all of her head, but what we will do, leaving enough space here for her head and a tiara. So I'm going to, for me, I'm going to start drawing her face roundabout in line with this horn. I'm going to start drawing a curve, and this is going to be the side of her face, and it's going to be her chin too. Okay, and there we go. Side of her face and chin. That's all it is. And now what we need to do is put her hair on. And I'll show you how to do this next bit, guys. And if you just wait so that you get it in exactly the right point, I'll explain to you the positioning, but it's kind of easiest for me to do this first. So up above where her little curve on her face is, up here, around about at this point, and I appreciate that's quite a random point. It's not easily lined up with anything yet. It's around about the middle of her where her chin is. It's around about the bottom point, but it's a bit higher than where we've stopped drawing our little curve. At this point here, we are going to do a bounce down like this, and then a bounce up, bounce down, bounce up, bounce down, bounce up, bounce down. And there we go. Right. And what this is her fringe. Drawing the fringe is a tricky thing to do because it's a question of getting it in the right spot, and that's not always easy. You can actually add an extra little bit of the fringe too by doing an extra little curve there, like kind of like we did on the unicorn's hair too. But what this gives us is a fringe to work with. So I haven't found a great way to describe this yet. It's kind of it's almost like a sort of spider thing sat on her head. But if you guys want to have a quick go at doing that now, the fringe should come around about halfway down her face. So you've got it there. There's the fringe. You do the little flicks at the bottom of the fringe there to show where the hair is gone. And then we're going to put her eyes on too. Okay, so two little dots right in the middle of the fringe. And a little smile, it can make people look cheekier and a bit more dynamic if we put the smile to one side on a little angle like that. So not right under her eyes, but to one side, and just a little smile like that. Also, just because I quite like the idea, give your princess just a little spot on the side of her face. Not everybody has perfectly smooth skin in life, and I think it's important that princesses also have the odd little imperfection on them too. Up high above, we're going to give her a tiara. This is going to be bouncing, it was going to be resting on her head, but because she's in action, it's leaping through the air with her. And to do that, you remember the little penny trick that we had before? You can see there, with a penny, when you turn it on an angle, it becomes very thin. Okay, flat circle like that, but it becomes an ellipse when we do it on an angle. That's what we're going to do here. So just to one side on the left, I'm going to draw a circle like that. And I am going to start going all the way around it, but I'm going to go and do the bottom bit of it first. And then rather than joining it up, I'm going to put sort of a triangle shape on top. Triangle wants to be a little bit to one side. And we can then add some little, that gives us space here for these little circles, which are going to be the diamonds in her tiara. Okay. She needs the rest of her long flowing hair. We've not got that done yet. She's got she's got a head and she's got her crown, but she's not got the rest of her hair. So what we're going to do now, guys, is have this lovely long flowing hair coming all the way off over here. So almost in line with the top of the fringe, but not quite. It's just coming down a little bit. We're going to have this hair starting off going horizontally. Then it swoops down. And then there we go. Okay. Same as what we were doing for the tail. Nice and thin there. But rather than it getting to a point back on her head, it wants to stay nice and thick. It's coming back towards her head. And we're going to be doing another little flick in the background there. There you go. That's another little bit of hair that's just doing its own thing. And then where these points are coming back to, if you imagine she's got her hair and her head is here, we want to stop with the little streaks of hair just before we get to where her head would naturally join up. We're then going to go down again, and this time we're going to add another long bit of hair like that. And then finally at the front of her hair, There we go. Okay. Okay. She's going to have a sword. Dead easy to do that. We need to give her a little arm sticking out up here. It's going to be a nice round hand on the end. And for a sword, you always want to have coming out of the bottom the last bit of the hilt, which is just a straight line with a circle on the bottom. We're then going to add... Oh, I've forgotten this bit of the sword. What do we call that bit? It's a bit before the blade. Oh, my brain's gone blank. But we add this. It's almost like a little slice of watermelon or something, or a banana sat on there. And then we can put her sword in. Now, swords are always best if you draw them thin, where they connect near the hand, and then they get fatter out towards the top. Okay. You can also make your sword look extra realistic by putting a straight line down the middle of them, like that. And we need to give her a body. Dead easy for this little princess. Right where her neck is, we're going to do a curve down like this. And when we get to this point, it's around about 1.5 times the size of her head. So we're going all the way down there. At this point, we come back up. And we're going to be getting to this point here. This is going to be where, it's going to be a little curved line like this. This is going to be where her dress goes down and then it comes back up again. We've then got some space to put an arm in. And an arm is going to be a little curve. It's then going to have a circle on the end of it. That's her hand. And if you wanted to give her an extra little bit of jewellery, you can do. Just like we did before for the other princess. On a bracelet, you can add a bracelet there. And this little line that we will add, that's going to be for her forearm there. Okay, you can just join that up. Look, we're going to put some shoes on too. She's going to have a couple of round feet like this, leaping along on her unicorn. And the secret to making it look like she's got sandals on, when you do the feet as just these two little circles, if you put some slightly curvy lines on, one there, and then another one straight afterwards, those are your sandal straps. And again there, and there. And we need the bottom of the sandal to be visible too. So what we do is we put an extra little bit of thickness just on the side of her foot there. And there you go. She's now leaping through the air, and she's got her sandals, and she's riding into battle with her fantastic unicorn. Of course, we need to sign that too. There we go. And the very final thing. Oh, right. I'm going to be running over by 5 minutes today. Rats. The final thing we're going to be looking at today, guys, is giving you some fantastic knights. So some guys that look a little bit like this. So what we're going to do, chaps, once you've got your unicorn drawing done and dusted, you can pop that to one side. And we can see about creating these dudes. Okay. What I like to do with the knights, we're going to have a hero one on the left and a bad guy on the right. The hero is going to be able to see his face. When you do bad guys, you always put them in helmets so you can't see their eyes. Good guys, you should be able to see their eyes. And what we're going to do, start off here with the hero on the left. The way to do it is to start off with his hair right here. What we're going to do, we're going to start off with this bit of his hair here. We're going to draw all his hair and then we're going to put the rest of him in afterwards. Okay. So starting off, we're going to do a big curve that comes all the way out. That's the top of his hair. We do a little flick when we get to the other side. And actually, to make it look like he's got some superhero hair, which sort of never moves even when there's a great big breeze blowing, we put an extra little flick there, and that's going to be the top of his quiff. It's going to be really big. And that is pretty much in line with the top of the curve that you had. It's then going to come out and all the way back round. And it's going to be aiming to join back up with the back of his head where his crown is, but it's not going to get there. Instead, it's going to stop short. And it's then going to sweep back down in a way that will then give us the back of his hair. So here we go. We've stopped at this point. We've got this lovely little head of hair starting off. But we're going to come back down. We'll leave a little space for his ear. And then his hair is going to continue on and we need to flick it out so that it makes the back shape of his head. Okay, same trick as before. If you want to put the little flicks in there, you can do. And now here's where his face is going to go. Okay, we're going to put him in with a curve round just like we did for the princess, and this is going to start pretty much where his little flick was, his little quiff there. There we go. Okay, this guy is going to have a helmet as well. So similar to how we did the tiara for our princess, we're going to be doing semicircle, but this one isn't going to be joined all the way up. I'm going to leave a little mysterious gap at the top. This semicircle is on a bit of an angle to make it look jaunty. And that little space there is going to be where we've got his little nose protector on his helmet. Okay. So if you guys can do that too, you can shade it in as well if you're happy with that. Here's his helmet. And we're not going to draw another perfect circle all the way around and connect it up. We're going to do a very similar thing to what we just did. We draw a circle, and then it wants to get really tight and close to the shape as it comes around the bottom. And it gets thick around the top like that, okay? And the reason that we've left this little space is because now we need to see about adding to this. We need to see about adding the top of the helmet. And the way we do this is we do it curving off to one side. So we go up, and it's going to curve off, and up, and curve off. And where those two bits meet, that is where we can then put the rest of our helmet in. We've got ourselves a knight's hat, okay, his helmet. We're going to have this guy leaping forwards again. We're going to give him a shield as well to protect himself. We're going to make it nice and easy. So if you guys remember the penny trick, we're going to put the shield ever so slightly. It's not going to be a perfect circle, but it's going to be in his arm here protecting him. It's going to be a little bit squished, just a little bit, really gently. Ooh. There we go. We're going to have him with his sword out, leaping forwards. So again, a nice big arm coming out underneath him. And this time, I want you guys to give him a big round hand like this. Because we're pushed for time, we're going to be running ever so slightly over today. We're not going to spend too long worrying about finer details on his hand and how we can do that. But just to say, if you wanted to give him a thumb, you can put a tiny little circle just there. Okay, that's his thumb. We've got our sword again. So same as before, have a practice. It's a little semicircle sort of a shape, kind of like a banana. That's going to be where his sword goes. And then up into the sky, holding it aloft. Nice point at the top. And then it joins back up and gets thinner towards the base. And you can then do, here we go. Whee, boink. There we go. We're going to give him a little tummy. We're going to have him charging into battle here. So his foot's going to be up. That tummy is a nice gentle curve. And so is that foot. And we're going to have another foot back here behind his shield where he's sprinting off into action. To make it look like he's got shoes on, there's a really nifty trick you can do. You put a little curvy cross, and then you put where the laces would be on his shoes. And that's a really cool way that you can make it look like he's sprinting into battle. He's going to need a cape as well because he's a hero. So where his neck is, I've done a little line there just to show where his shoulder would go and where he's holding his shield. We need this cape billowing off in the wind. And again, here's a nice little trick for you. We can make it look like it's a cape billowing in the wind by going up and down and then back up and flicking. The more curves you put on your cape, the more it makes it look like it's bouncing around in the wind. So that's the starting point, but it's not enough. We have to have some extra bits. And what's nice with capes to make him look really realistic is to then have where you've got these high points and low points on your line you've just drawn, you choose that as the point where your cape is then going to disappear off. We're going to do the same here. It's just going to go disappearing off behind itself, and then here disappearing off behind itself. And what you end up with is something that looks like a cape with a top and a bottom that's flowing in the wind. He needs to have as well some chainmail on, and he needs to have a belt. So we're going to give him a belt by doing one of our little circles on its side, and then 2 horizontal lines. We're going to make a little round circle in the middle to show where it would go. And his chainmail, which is what he uses to protect himself, this is what you can do by doing loads of little circles, okay? So these circles overlap. You can go really super quick with them. They'll be thinner and thinner towards the edge of his body, and then they'll look more rounded towards the middle. And you guys from last week that did the robot course, you'll remember that, because that was the nifty trick that could make it look 3D, okay? So thin ones there, and then thicker ones, rounder ones in the middle, okay? And now he's got his chainmail and he's charging into battle. Final one then. This is our last night. Oh, we have gone a tiny bit over today, guys. Oh my goodness, we have gone a little bit over, but never mind. I'm having fun and I'm enjoying it, and I'm hoping you guys are too. The guy that he's up against is going to be this knight here, the one who's a little bit defensive and stood to one side. So to do this, this is the favourite way of doing a helmet of mine. What we do, watch this shape here. I don't know how you describe it. It's not quite square, it's not quite a circle, it's not quite anything. So watch how we do this. We do straight line, then curves down and comes back. That's like a C. That's pretty easy. A C on its own is a piece of cake. But what we have to do is join it up. We're not going to join it up with a little curve. Instead, starts to get a bit pointy. But before it becomes a point, we curve it up there too. So it's a letter C, and then we start to make it a point, but we don't give it a sharp point. And instead, this is the visor for our bad guy. And here we go. His visor needs to have some stripes on it. Those stripes are going to be very thin towards one side, and they're gradually going to get a bit thicker and thicker and thicker towards the middle because of the fact we're drawing it in 3D. So it's a little bit thicker. And they start to straighten out as well. You'll notice as I do these little techniques, these little lines, the technique I'm using is making them thicker and thicker and taller and taller and wider, okay? And that's how you can make your bad guy look like he's actually got a bit of 3D to him on his visor. We then tend to have it getting a little bit smaller again towards the side of the visor. There we go. If you can get the hang of that, you will have some fantastic looking bad guys. Okay. We need the rest of his helmet, and it's got to be big enough to cover his head. So that little point there is going to be pretty much where his ear is. And this means that the rest of the helmet will go up here about a third of the way in. It's going to go all the way back here, tuck round and underneath. And we need to give him a plumage, something that's really going to make him look like a knight. Make that a bit thicker. I don't think that's thick enough. We need to give him something that's really going to be nice and thick here. Okay, so the way to do that, a little rectangle on top, and then we're going to have a nice curly flick coming out, round and back down and back up. And this is, again, something where we can give him a plumage. Getting our little detail pen, we put some more curves in to make it look like it's all flowing in the same direction. There we go. Okay. So all you're doing with those shapes is just following that little curve. And this time, we're going to make it look like he is holding his mace to one side, which is a nasty weapon that bad guys would use. A mace is like a ball and spike, basically, on the end of a long pole. And to do that, we need to give him his hands over here. He's going to be holding one hand like this. He's going to be holding his other hand underneath. And they're sat to one side of his body. We're then going to have a nice tall line like this up the side of his head, pretty much where the top of his head is, just before the plumage. This is where we're going to put the ball and spike. And the ball and spike, you can try drawing a circle but leaving little gaps. These gaps are going to be where we put the spikes on our ball. Okay, and you can see we've got 3 there on the front, and you can add more behind like this to make him look even spikier. Okay. He's going to be wearing gloves, this guy, as well. A really easy way to make someone look like they're wearing gloves. You've got their hand. You put the thumb on there like we did before. And then gloves, we don't draw a perfectly straight line. We have him flicking out like that, curving round, flicking back in. And he's going to look like he's ready to hit the guy with his mace by putting his shoulder in here, which is going to be a little round curve, and his arm is going to join up to it. So here we go. Arms coming down and round, and there's his shoulder. Okay, looks like he's getting ready to clonk him. We also put a little bit of extra armour on around his shoulder to protect him, like that. You can as well make it look like somebody's got a ridge on their knuckles on their hands, by the way, guys, by doing a little flick like that there. And because he's holding it with his hand the other way, there you go. It now looks like he's holding on. He's got his knuckles there to hold on to his ball and spike. We're very quickly going to give him his body. So we're going to do, I'll make this nice and simple for this one. Just a round curvy body like that. And again, we can have this dude with a glove here. So, like that. Looks like he's getting ready to give him a smack. We can give him a belt too, and for this dude, let's give him a little something tucked into it as well. So we can make it look like he's got a little bag of money or something, because in the olden days people used to carry around bags of money instead of wallets. The way we do that is by putting a little shape tucked into his belt here. And this shape is going to be, it's almost like it's sprouting out. There goes his belt. And the bag will be round like that and joining back up. Okay. Adding a couple of extra little lines, that makes it look like he's got his money bag there. And finally, his feet. So, to make it look like he's actually stood and ready to smack someone, strangely, this foot here is not going to be pointed towards him. It's going to be turned round almost on a complete angle, okay? Like it's pointing the other way. So watch this and then have a go afterwards. We're going to do the entire foot. It's going to come up here. That's his heel. It's going to go out and plant itself on the ground. It's going to come round and then it's going to curve back up like that, okay? And that's like he's got his foot side on, ready to smack the guy running towards him. And then his other foot, again, is going to be raised. This one is going to be the same sort of thing. Heel nice and high, coming down, then flat on the floor, and then bounces up like that. So he's getting ready to smack the guy coming towards him. You could add chainmail to this guy if you want to. That's completely up to you. If you prefer, you can try something a little bit different, and that is giving him what we'd call plate armor. And plate armor is lots of little pieces of metal all together like this. There we go. And that looks like he's got plate mail on there too. You can colour these guys in however you want. You can add whatever you want to the shield too. So if you want to do a dinosaur like we did last week, you could draw a dinosaur on there. If you wanted to give him a cross, very, very easy. Draw a cross. All you're doing actually is drawing almost like little triangular shapes here on the side of his shield. You can do that, but you can make him whatever you want. If you want to put a lion head on there or a dragon or whatever, absolutely fine. But there we go. We have got a hero running towards him to save the day with his shield and sword out. And then we've got a bad guy with his helmet on. You never see bad guy faces. It always makes them more mysterious to have helmets on. And then you have your mace too. So, guys, all the things that we have run through, and we've gone over. Oh my goodness, this wasn't 45 minutes. This was an hour and a quarter. Thank you all for sticking with me. We've got our unicorn with our princess. We have got our tower, which you guys can use to make your own castles, and the heroes coming up the side of the building. And we have got our two guys having a fight. So, that is what we were looking to do today. We have created some fantastic drawings. We have successfully learned how to draw unicorns, castles, knights and princesses. And I would love to see your end results. So please, 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 if you're going to put them on Twitter, put them on with the hashtag #DrawWithAndy. If you're going to put them on Facebook, please put them on so I can see. Last week we had Jess and we had Jake. They were the two winners of my competition to see who could do the best drawings. They went off and created their own. And I want that from you guys this week too with your knights. I will be picking two people at random. And whoever has done the nicest job, whoever has drawn the best princesses, knights, castles and unicorns will be receiving through the post a copy of my very first picture book. I have an orange juicy drink. This is a first edition. It will be signed and there will be details there too. Do watch this video back. Do share it with your friends. I will be here next week when we will be doing another session. I'm glad that you guys have enjoyed it. You're very welcome, Lucy. Thank you from Andy, Jack and Libby. Thank you guys for coming along and joining in too. It has been absolutely lovely and I hope you've enjoyed it. I've been having some fun. What I'm now going to do, guys, I'm going to do a bit of colouring in. I've got some lovely little things called Letraset Pro markers. If you guys are good, maybe at Christmas, Father Christmas might bring you some of these. But they are absolutely beautiful for colouring in these illustrations. And the reason is they don't leave streaky marks like felt tips do. Letraset markers are a bit more like, say, a watercolour. You just get this lovely solid block of colour with them too. I'm not on commission. These are just the ones that I use. So I'm going to go colouring my characters now. You guys do the same. Create your own drawings, create your own castles, create your own goodies and baddies and princesses and everything else in between. And I will see you guys next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.